All right, boys and girls, we went and got Mekhi Becton. Couldn't be more excited. He was never the top of my priority list at guard. A lot of that came down to his injury history and how much money I thought he was going to demand. I was very wrong about how much money he was going to demand. So $10 million a year for 2 years at 26 years old, I believe he is. Can't be any more happy about it. Obviously, there's concerns. There's concerns with anybody you can get from free agency. That's how they end up in free agency. It's very rare that all pro healthy people in their prime hit free agency. So really have a tremendous opportunity to fix the right side of that offensive line. Is it an end-all be-all? Not necessarily. And I do have my concerns, but I want to preface this by saying I could not be more thrilled. He does obviously have a concern. He regressed every year that he was in New York from his rookie year on. 2023 had the injury year. 2021 got injured, missed most of the season. 2022 missed the entire season. 2023 came back, allowed 12 sacks, 8 hits, and 50 pressures, so it was not a good season for him by any means. How much of that was due to the injuries, how much of that was lingering, I don't know. It is still concerning, but that was also him playing the tackle position, predominantly left tackle position in New York. Obviously, he transitioned to guard and had a significantly more success playing for the Philadelphia Eagles. That was Jeff Stoutland with Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, a quarterback that can rush it a little bit more, and a tremendous offensive line around him. I'm going to hope that it doesn't matter. I'm going to hope that it all just came down to the fact that that offensive line was studly, because every single position was a monster up there. I know Eagles fans are extremely disappointed that they weren't able to maintain him on their roster. That's obviously always a good sign. So he was a top 25 guard in the NFL this year. You can't go wrong with that. As long as he continues to play even close to that level, we will get significantly more surplus value than his contract dictates. So thrilled, couldn't be happier. Doesn't necessarily fix our offensive line quite yet, but it is a huge step in the right direction. I was starting to crash out a little bit. I know most of Twitter had been crashing out for quite some time. Even the more level-headed ones of us had definitely started to lose it a little bit. Just waiting to see something on that interior offensive line get addressed. Like, depth is important, and we needed to sign it. I've been talking about how many free agents we had for quite some time. But getting at least some of that addressed feels so nice. And honestly, the most important position. So now it just comes down to, how do we address the rest of the offensive line? Do we tackle left guard and let Zion and Bozeman battle it out for the center position? Do we tackle center and count on Zion playing left guard unless someone falls to us in the draft? Who knows? We'll find out. I mean, only Ortiz knows. We'll see what happens, but at least we're going in with significantly less pressure on the draft. We're not pigeonholed into what we have to pick. So it is absolutely massive for the way that we built out this roster. I would still prefer to go get some level of center competition. I don't have as much faith in Zion moving to center, but honestly, it's because we haven't ever seen him play it. So they've seen him take reps and everything else. So we'll see. Maybe it is a good fit for him. Maybe that left guard is something you want to go and address. So we'll see. There's not too many high caliber guards left on the market. There are a couple centers that could be starting caliber players. For sure, I'm still leaning towards Andre James, but we'll see. But for the most part, we've put ourselves in a position to where we have a couple of holes to fill on the roster that desperately need to be filled. Definitely depth needs to be filled out. But as far as starters out there, I mean, we all know we need a tight end. Will Dissly's not going to be our tight end going into the season. I would prefer to double dip on that. Will Dissly to me is a tight end 2 in that 2 tight end set, where one's predominantly pass blocking or run blocking, but has the ability to run out and leak out if they need to and catch a ball. But I'd prefer to see 2 pass catchers get brought into the fold, one in the draft and one in free agency still. So both those kind of tight end spots desperately need to be addressed. I still think corner needs to be addressed. I don't love this corner draft class, which makes me a little more concerned. Obviously, we have Hart and Still. But who's going to play that secondary outside role? Is it going to be Dante Jackson? I really hope it's not St. Juiced. Sorry. Really hope it's not St. Juice playing out there. I really hope he's more of a special teamer depth guy. So we'll see how that gets filled out. I would prefer to still go get a Russell Douglas or something like that, and then just really draft and develop in the cornerback room, especially with Cam Hart's injuries. Then Dante and St. Juice can kind of fill that role. So I'd prefer to see it address that route, but we'll see what Ortiz in the front office prefer to do. But again, there are some guys that I like as developmental prospects in the middle rounds, but there's no one that I really love that I see us kind of getting in the draft at the cornerbacks position. So I'd really prefer to get one more guy out there on the field. So other than that, the big one that everybody keeps talking about is wide receiver. Now, welcome back, Mike Dubb. It is so nice to have you back. Hadn't even really considered him in my X receiver role, but he is what we need to have out on the outside with the contested catch guy. I don't see him playing the majority of the snaps, especially if we're running smaller wide receiver sets, more two tight end looks. Depends on how we fill out the rest of this roster. But I think you got Ladd, QJ, and Mike are kind of your big three. And then you have a second tier down, which is going to be your Jalen Reagor and your Darius Davis and your Brennan Rice. And I think one of Jalen Reagor or Darius Davis is going to make the primary roster. They both might. But I do think that we'll see how that. I would not be surprised if Darius Davis doesn't make the roster because they do feel like they can fill those special teams requirements with a different type of position. But we did see so many flashes of him at the end of the season that I could see us still rolling with him. I would prefer DD to stay on the team, but we'll see. Rice, we haven't seen anything of. I don't know if he's just going to stay a camp body or if he's showing improvement. Who knows? We don't. I'm not there. But yeah, so that's kind of our core 7, and I don't know how many of them are actually going to get carried into the season, or core 6. And then there's one more spot that really needs to be filled, which is a starting caliber player, because Mike's not going to see the field all the time. QJ really shouldn't. I want to see him develop. I want to see him grow, but we're too close to contention to continue to roll the dice on him based off of what we've seen. And so a lot of people wanted Cooper Kupp, or some people wanted Cooper Kupp. A lot of people wanted other big names out there that have obviously been scooped up. And so now we've come down to our boy. And I think it only makes sense to bring back Keenan. Could a lot of people fill that role? Yes. But what he means to this team, what he means to the players on this roster, the fact that he is such an exceptional model for Ladd to learn and grow from, because Keenan's game isn't modeled around athleticism. Ladd, I would say, is more athletic than Keenan ever has been. A little bit smaller, but more athletic. And so he can really teach him how to continue to refine his route tree and win, which is how Ladd wins anyway. I know positional fit doesn't necessarily make a tremendous amount of sense, but I don't really care. Now that we have Mike on the outside to kind of play that role as need be for that jump ball guy, let Justin's brain do the work. He's going to find the guy who's open. Let's just get him guys that can get open, and Keenan can do that. And so I think that's just absolutely has to be a priority for us. Is he going to be expensive? Probably. Is it going to be more than $12 million a year? Probably not. Probably right around in that area. And I'm more than happy. Someone's got to retire a Charger eventually. Like, damn, it's been a few years. And so I understand why he left last year from his side and from the coach's side, but it sounds like everybody's on the same page of him wanting to be back here, like between him and what we've heard from Mike Dubb and other players and people, and the fact that he hasn't really signed anywhere else yet. And so it just feels like it makes a ton of sense to bring him back. And so I so badly hope that we do. Because then you go into the season with Ladd, QJ, Mike, and Keenan. There was your core 4. You have somebody that doesn't shy you away from drafting anyone. And then Jalen, Reagor, DD, and Rice can kind of battle it out for that 6th or 7th spot. And so I would love to see the Chargers address it that way. That's how I think they should do it, with the way that they built out this roster as depth and competition instead of huge dollar value guys. I think that it makes the most sense to build it that way from their standpoint as well. So I sure freaking hope so. It'd be nice to have Keenan back in powder blue. I don't want to see him play for another team. I don't want to see him go back to the Bears, but I really don't want to see him play for another team. He wants to come home. He's made it clear. We just need to make it happen. So, and from a draft standpoint, I think that's kind of, let's go back to tight end real quick, but from a draft standpoint, I think that you're hoping that Colston Loveland's there. You go get a Mark Andrews or a Dallas Goedert regardless, and then that doesn't still shy you away from taking a young stud tight end in the draft class. Defensive tackle's a spot that needs more upside. Edge rusher's a spot that needs more upside. Those are places that you can kind of play BPA based off of who falls to you in the draft. I have a really hard time seeing best player available in the first round being Matthew Golden. I do. I think he's firmly in that second tier of guys right there with Iomanor and Trey Harris and obviously Matthew Golden. And I just think that Trey Harris is my leader of the bunch. I think if you want to go wide receiver in second round, absolutely go right ahead. I love that. But I just can't justify it with our first round pick at Matthew Golden there. I just can't justify that spot where Colston Loveland changes the X's and O's. I think that that's the route that we go unless you have a Kenneth Grant or somebody fall to you. And so there, or Pierce, if James Pierce falls to you, even though I know he has all the off-field stuff, like those are players that change the X's and O's for you, and I just don't think Matthew Golden does. So I think the only logical explanation to keep us from being pigeonholed and making a poor decision in the draft is to bring our boy Slayer back. Please do it. Hopefully we get the news tomorrow or Monday. Let's make a couple more big moves, one at tight end and one at receiver, and hopefully one more at corner, maybe sprinkle in some competition on the offensive line and really settle ourselves in before we get to draft time. We'll see what happens. Either way, we can all rest a little bit easier now. Go Bolts. If you liked this video, please give me a follow on Twitter or X at Erdman Chargers, shown on the graphic here, or subscribe to my YouTube channel at Nature's Calls Pod.